What's up, Tyler?
How's it going, Nick? How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
I hear you've got another interesting question for me.
Yep. I think a lot of people deal with this with kind of fast metabolisms, but kind of going off our last topic, when somebody does have a massive amount of calories ahead of them, there's definitely this like quantity versus quality debate, because going and getting an In-N-Out burger is going to be way more calories for that meal versus eating, a lean chicken breast with rice, for example. So it's definitely something I've kind of felt like is a gray area because you do want to balance between the two. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes. All right. This is a great question, a great topic. Definitely up for debate for sure. When it comes to calories, quantity over quality. Uh, Quality, I would say quality first. Try to get as much of your calories as quality calories, and then we can then use quantity type or less nutrient dense calories to help reach those goals. Or I should say, also strategically utilizing um, those other carbohydrates or other foods that might not be so, or one might think is clean or healthy, strategically, right? Maybe like around the time of a workout or like before or after to utilize as energy, but to rapidly be able to burn off a lot of that empty energy, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, Also, with that, you know, the biggest thing that I'm a big advocate, and I try to tell my athletes is making sure that you're eating a diet, which I don't like that term, but eating foods that you like. All right. First, let me discuss why I don't like the term diet. Two reasons. One, if I told you I was putting you on a diet, like how excited would you be about that?
not too, not too excited. There's a lot of connotations behind that.
Right? A lot of negative connotations behind diet. Plus, the other thing is a diet typically has a start and end date, right? And at the end of that date, it's off the diet and back to whatever. And that's a whole nother discussion, the rebound and all that we could get into, but I don't want people to think of the way they view foods as like a diet per se. Um, I try to teach and educate my athletes on healthy eating habits for today, for tomorrow, for performance, but really ultimately for a lifetime. Because let's face it, you're going to be eating every single day for the rest of your life. And I want to teach them how to view foods and how to build plates and meals based on their goals and a number of other factors. So it's more of how they view food. That's very important to me. And then really making and building meals around foods that you like. Typically, diets are, you're going to give up a lot of foods that you like. And the adherence, long term adherence to that, really diminishes quickly,
Mhm.
right? Especially if you get those cravings for those foods and like, I can't do this diet anymore, or now I've got such a bad relationship with this term and with food now, right? It's a psyche type thing, where and a lot of things like diets. A lot of people think diets are gonna be filled with bland, not fun tasting foods, and why would anybody want to eat those type of meals, right? So I try to teach my athletes to build meals around foods they like. So for instance, we'll make lists of foods. We have a list of food, and I'll make them go through and like circle or highlight different foods from different categories that they like, and then from there we work with them to build meals around those foods, right? So now it helps them to view these different foods as nutrients with specific purposes, how to build these meals, whether it's before or after practice, a lift, or a game, whether it's in the morning or at night, whether it's like a rest day, a whole bunch of different factors. Now they're learning how to build their meals based on the needs and what their goals are.
I really like that approach, like starting with foods you like and then building around that versus like the other way around.
Exactly. And a lot of people try to make such drastic changes in their diet, which is also a huge problem. Because that also leads to only short-term adherence. Long-term, you're going to fall off that wagon real quick. And it's about making small adjustments. For instance, if an athlete doesn't like eating anything in the morning, right? Well, maybe instead of making a breakfast, maybe instead of like having like eggs and oatmeal or toast or something, they don't want that. They'd rather not eat anything. What about making a smoothie? Right? Or if they don't have time to make breakfast, okay, what about making a smoothie? Something quick, easy on the go, right? So making those small changes. And then maybe, okay, we get a little bit more time in the morning. Maybe we try making some eggs with some oatmeal, So that's, that's definitely...
Something simple.
Yeah, it's like making those small adjustments, those small changes is one, a lot easier to manage, and two, more easily implemented and adhered to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now, going towards the quality-quantity debate, with the quantity aspect, most people kind of think of those calories as like crappy calories, right? And the best example would be like carbohydrates. There's a lot of like crappy connotated type carbs. So what I always tell my athletes, we have two rules when we're eating these crappy carbs. All right, whenever you're eating these crappy carbs, like whether it might be like candy, chips, sports drinks, sodas, whatever they might think or they prefer. One, pair it with a quality protein and consume that protein first, right? That's going to utilize those crappy carbohydrates for more of a purpose. The protein is going to stimulate the mTOR pathway, muscle building, muscle growth, muscle repair pathway. That's going to then tell the body to, hey, let's utilize these carbohydrates for those functions first to help with the growth, to help with the repair, to help with the recovery, instead of just being stored and not really utilized, as opposed to when you don't eat it and don't pair it with protein, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So take those crappy carbs, pair it with a quality protein, and consume that protein first if you can. And then second is consume those around your workout or practice training window, whether it's before or after, right? Because those are very like high glycemic, rapidly digesting and absorbed type of energy dense calories that now you can utilize as energy and then for recovery much quicker.
Totally. I never thought of that, like pairing it with protein whenever you have kind of less clean meals. That's really interesting.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely one. It helps kind of mitigate maybe like the negative thought process behind like, oh, I'm gonna have this crappy meal, and I'm gonna feel bad for myself for like now, like I just had all this junk food, now I feel crappy. Well, now having that protein is gonna put that to much better use. You don't have to feel as bad about it. You don't have to think like, oh, I can't have these crappy carbs because they're bad for me. Well, let's limit the amount we consume. I'm not saying like, hey, let's have like candy with every meal. But if you like candy and you want to use it strategically, have it before or after your practice, and then have that with some protein. You get more out of it. You get to enjoy it, and it's something to look forward to. It can even help you kind of get in the mindset like, hey, now it's time for practice. Now it's time for that lift. Now it's time for the game. helps get me in the zone. Gives me something to look forward to. Now you're pairing both training and nutrition with two positive correlations,
Totally, totally. Because I know, like, when you have a lot of calories ahead of you, I mean, eating clean, it's tough to, like, psychologically know, especially because you just have to eat so much to eat clean and eat that much, if that makes sense. So it can make it, like, psychologically, like, so much more doable to have something you look forward to eating, and, it gets a lot of those calories for you as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And to kind of go along with that, I get the question that as well, how much of my calorie intake should be from like the quality sources versus like the lesser quality sources. And what I try to tell my athletes is, you want to try to get a majority of your calories from quality calories. And then like we kind of break them into categories, and we'll say try to get around 80% of your calories for the day from this source, and then the rest fall in between these categories. And we find that helps athletes kind of be able to one, pick the better calorie options, and two, kind of piece their meals and kind of figure out what they want to eat when they want to eat it, and like kind of use those with more specific purposes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. This is really good. I think a lot of people are going to find this helpful. I know I'm definitely going to try, pairing proteins with my meals like that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it's a great question, great topic to discuss. And along with that protein statement you just made is trying to make sure you get adequate protein with every single meal. And
True.
I always recommend at the very least 40 grams of protein. That really optimizes full body protein synthesis for recovery and growth. So I always recommend trying to get 40 grams with every meal, and meal including snacks as well.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for answering this.
Yeah, absolutely. Always look forward to these questions. They're great.
Awesome. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Peace.